Before the video begins, I'd like to ask you all to please do anything you can to help out the people of Palestine, be it through donating, doing your daily clicks, or simply just speaking up about the genocide that they're going through. Any bit of any of these will help out a ton. I'll leave relevant links in the description below. Now onto the video. Good evening, everyone. As of late, I've been absolutely obsessed with Pressure, as you can see by my little badge above my head and 19 wins. I would have liked to make this video for October, but I just can't stop playing this game, and it was either I made it at a somewhat inappropriate time, or I got burnt out on the game and ended up missing the opportunity entirely. I'm getting ahead of myself, however. In today's video, I'll obviously be talking about the recently enough released Roblox game, Pressure. This is going to be a lot like my Decaying Winter video, where I give a rundown of the game, various tips, and review it at the end. As per usual, I'll be splitting this video up into multiple sections using the chapters feature, explaining the premise, monsters you face, mechanics, and whatever else there is to talk about. Like always, like, comment, subscribe if you end up enjoying. Try to hit 3K, but it's the literal worst year for the channel. Enough fluff, let's start. Pressure takes a lot of inspiration from many things, most notably Doors, the SCP universe, and Ultrakill, with a bit of Iron Lung sprinkled throughout. The game takes the absolute most of its inspiration from Doors though, using it as a kind of base while adding a ton of twists to set itself apart, to the point where I get a little offended on the game's behalf when someone just says Pressure is Doors but X or Doors but Y. Because once you've played enough of this game, you'll see how much more it is than just that. Of course, I should actually begin explaining what Pressure is even about. Pressure is a game where you play as a prisoner who signed up to do some dirty work within the head all black site in exchange for your freedom. I'm not sure why, but go ahead. You must go through 100 procedurally generated rooms to retrieve the Z1 crystal during a site-wide lockdown due to a recent containment breach at the hands of a certain individual, collecting loose data and doing some extra handiwork while avoiding many of the strange and usually dangerous entities along the way. Remember that you are expendable. You are not expected to return. You can go solo or with up to 50 players, but it's a terrible idea and you gotta pay to do that, so let's pretend it's 8, which also sucks, so let's pretend it's like 6 or something. If you wish to escape the black site alive, you need to cooperate with your fellow expendables, keep your wits about you, and have sufficient knowledge about everything you'll be encountering below the waves. Starting with a face you'll see pretty often, the Angler. The Angler is this game's version of Rush. When it spawns, all the lights will flicker and you'll have a certain amount of time to get to a hiding spot before it quickly speeds by. Lockers aren't actually necessary, you can get away with just hiding behind something. As long as it doesn't have proximity and line of sight during the entire duration of its rush, you'll be fine. This is because the Angler is something called a node monster, which is a monster that follows a very specific path through a room, moving across invisible nodes per se, hence the name. Fairly simple, right? Well, that's not taking into account the 5 other node monsters that are able to spawn to keep you on your toes, mostly being Angler variants.
What do you mean, mostly?
Shut up. First up is Pinky. Their gimmick is that the lights don't flicker when Pinky spawns, however Pinky makes a louder noise than the other Angler variants. If you're keeping your ears open, you shouldn't have too much trouble against them. Secondly, Blitz. Their gimmick is that they are really fast, but you have more time to hide. You can tell it's Blitz because the lights flicker for longer than usual. You'll have about 4 seconds before Blitz, you know. Third is Frogger. Frogger is this game's version of Ambush. They'll rush forward and swing back fairly quick before going back forward one last time. Make sure to get out of a locker after they go back for the first time, unless you want to get kicked out automatically, though you may need to get out of a locker before they bounce back for the first time if the room is big enough. The amount of times Frogger comes back isn't random. They'll always go forward, bounce back once, and then come back again from behind. Pause. Lastly is Chainsmoker, everyone's favorite weed-smoking fish that you can't say the name of on Roblox or you'll commit suicide with 5 bullets to the back of your head. Their gimmick is that they're really slow and you get kicked out of a locker sooner, meaning you'll have to wait for them to get close up. As you just once your screen starts shaking or once it enters the same room as you, you dip into a locker. The massive weed trail it leaves behind is quite useful for seeing stuff in the dark or avoiding fake doors. This book doesn't have any actual effect on you, so don't worry about it.
Wait, what about the 5th angle?
Oh yeah, you probably don't know about fake doors yet, do you? Fake doors, also known as good people, don't ask why, can appear on any room with branching paths. If you walk into a fake door, you'll be met with Mr. People who will take away 55 of your precious HP. Good people is actually a duo of entities, Mask of Sadness and the P.Ainter, who we'll talk more about soon. There can be multiple fake doors per room. There are ways to tell which door is fake. You can hear strange growling or breathing from the other side of a good people door, and after a bit the sign may flicker, which means it's a good people door and you should avoid it. Another little thing is that, in dark rooms, the numbers on a fake door will glow in the dark, whilst the numbers on a real door will not. Lastly, all node monsters such as the Angler or Hip will only go to the real door. So if an Angler rolls by, you just gotta go to the door that they went to and you'll be fine, with some rare exceptions. Now you may be wondering who the hell the P.Ainter is. Well, they're technically an old entity, but they only really appeared with good people back then, and they've been reworked to actually be a presence within the facility. They really aren't an entity on their own, but they are the canonical reason that things like rogue turrets and fake doors are around. They're a robot artist that's actually an artist that was ripped away from their owner by a group of Urban Shade employees that really liked making AI art, who got mad that someone was making better AI art than them and used Urban Shade resources to find out where they live, and you know, it's crazy. Read their document when you get the chance. What's a document? Find out later. Now, you may have heard me mention turrets. Yes, turrets are scattered around some rooms of the facility, instructed by the P.Ainter to aim specifically for you. To turn them off, there's usually a switch at the end of a room. Past the turrets. That one to kill you. There's usually multiple turrets per room as well, so I recommend really taking your time during these rooms. Do be warned, however, as any node monster is able to spawn within turret rooms. Thankfully, there's usually lockers within turret rooms for you to hide it, and they're bulletproof too, so you don't gotta worry about those turrets getting any cheap shots on you while you deal with other stuff. If you struggle with them, keep in mind that specifically one of the free lasers have to touch you for them to target onto you. So if you crouch below the laser, the turret can look right at you and not see you. The turrets also have to reload after shooting for a bit, so you can bait them to shoot for some time and wait for them to go back up to reload. It's a bit of a small window though, so you have to be quick about it. Even though the turrets are quite a big issue, you should make sure to keep an ear out, lest you get a visit from the Wall Dweller. You'll usually just find one of these guys per run, and as the name suggests, they like to dwell within the walls of a facility. Once a tasty expendable walks by, they'll emerge and begin stalking them. They like to hide and wait for the right time to strike. Once their meal is distracted, they'll sneak up behind you and instantly kill you. The only noise they make are when they leave the wall and the footsteps they make when they're creeping up behind you, so make sure to keep an ear out for footsteps that aren't your own. The way to get rid of them is simply by looking at them, causing them to run away. They might try to spin back once, but just look at them again and they'll run off. They're also able to follow you into any vent system, but not the water. These things are scary and strange, but they're not immortal. Wall dwellers are able to be killed by anglers and turrets. Once a wall dweller is killed, you'll be able to eat it for some reason, which gives you passive regeneration. It's one of the two ways you get regen in the game, the other isn't really relevant. Even though these guys aren't too big of an issue alone, it's once other monsters get into the mix that they become an issue, especially since there's a monster that really likes being looked at, the Eyefestation, better known as that fucking shark that I hate. This game's version of Eyes. This annoying ass pest has a chance to spawn in any room with windows, and it'll try to force you to look at it. Well, what's the issue with that? I'm getting there! This wouldn't be an issue if it wasn't for the fact that looking at it deals damage to you. Shocking. Going into the next room will make it despawn as well, so this thing isn't really a threat most of the time, with some examples. Say, for example, when a certain robot artist gets involved. Usually a maximum of once per run, the P.Ainter will shut you in with the Eyefestation and it will be enraged, making it do more damage and harder to avoid its pull. You have to survive 15 seconds with it before you're able to open the next door and leave. The Eyefestation can also be enraged another way, but that's for you to find out on your own. Keeping up the trend of monsters that pose minimal threat outside of specific circumstances, Squiddles. These silly little guys don't enjoy the light that much and only exist in the dark. You'll usually see a few after an angler fucks up all the lights. These guys are completely docile, they won't ever attack you, so you're fine. Unless you bother them. Obviously they'd attack if you bother them, man. They'll attack you if you shine your light on them or stand too close to them for too long. They could be called this game's reach equivalent, I guess. They won't instantly attack you if you shine your light on it, though it seems some lights aggro them faster than others. They do a random amount of damage from like 20 to 50 or something, I forgot. I don't know the exact numbers. They won't attack you if you're just putting in a key card or something, though. They're chill like that. Unless you shine your light on them. Jesus. Another docile monsters are the Puddle Void Mass, aka the Void Lockers. These may seem like ordinary lockers, but when you open them... What the fuck? Help! That happens. Once you look at them for more than a second, you'll see two big glowing purple eyes inside, which clearly indicate that it's a void locker. Obviously, you shouldn't go into any locker that clearly has a living creature inside, but some prisoners need to be told that. That's not the only way you can tell them apart, however. You're also able to tell if your footsteps sound like they're stepping on a puddle when walking by them. They also make a small ambient noise when near. By all means, you absolutely should never be fooled by these things. But even if you know it's one, sometimes you may have to go inside if there's no safe lockers nearby. Huh, that angle was weird. Only do this if you have teammates who are alive, as in solo, there's no way to escape and they instantly kill you. Anyways, your teammates should be able to get you out fairly quick if you're stuck in one, so just wait a bit. Any second now. Any second. Man, what's taking them so long? Oh yeah, that guy. It's time for everyone's favorite decomposing mass of flesh and other, Pandemonium. The last of the node monsters, technically not an Angler variant. They work like any old regular Angler, but with two differences. One, if they have any line of sight, they'll immediately head straight towards you and kill you. Second, if you hide in a locker, well, you best get ready, because they're well aware of their presence and they intend to assimilate you. Once you hide in a locker, Pandemonium will initiate their iconic minigame, where you have to keep your circle in the middle, or else. It's actually pretty easy, but it certainly gets the blood pumping the first few times. After a bit, Pandemonium will scuttle off to get up to more mischief. One note about Pandemonium is that even though on your screen they'll be right outside your locker, if you hide in a safe spot where Pandemonium can't find you and check on the locker of someone playing a minigame, Pandemonium won't actually be there, they'll just pass by. So if someone's, say, trapped in a void locker, you can just hide in a safe spot where Pandemonium can't see you, and then head out when they pass by, and you'll be able to save them. Pandemonium really isn't much more of an issue than other anglers, except if you try to hide without a locker. Or you're doing lockerless, God help your soul. Anyways, now that you're done with all that dying, you should spend some time in the lobby. You've probably acquired some Kroner by now, right? Kroner is this game's currency. You're able to spend it on three things. Ferryman tokens, which are just revives, and suits.
Also, there's a dead drop, that's not really relevant.
I'm not sure why they let prisoners customize their suits, but oh well, I'm not complaining. There's quite a lot to choose from, some being unlocked from badges and most just being bought with Kroner. You're also able to goof around in the lobby and find secrets instead of playing the game, like if you want, or you can read through some documents. You get these in two ways. Firstly, dying to an entity will give you its document, which will give you some lore and some tips on how to counter it, which will be highlighted because Roblox players can't read. If you could read the text on the screen, you'd be really mad right now. It won't give you the entire document on your first death. You'll usually have to die to an entity multiple times to get their full document, and some parts will stay redacted no matter what. You can also get some documents on other things that aren't just monsters through ways other than dying. The second way to find documents is that sometimes you'll see documents just lying around, which a certain someone I haven't bought up yet will snatch from you like a little goblin, allowing you to read them later. I suggest taking a bit to read through them, as there's a lot of interesting lore to read here. And also it gives you a lot of good tips, which you need. Now read up! While you're dying for your documents instead of finding them like a man, you'll see a free-eyed individual speaking to you. Well, once you finally stop dying to the basic angler and make it far enough, you'll meet Sebastian, your only friend. Voiced by Gianni Matragrano, known for his iconic voice as Goon taking a shit. He'll sell you items in exchange for the assets you've been collecting around the facility. These items include stuff like flashlights, code breachers, medkits, batteries, and even his very own document. The items he has are quite useful, so make sure to stock up on assets when you can. Most items here are self-explanatory, so I'll quickly explain the ones you possibly couldn't know about. The code breacher is an item that lets you open any locked door no matter what. It may sound useless unless you're impatient, however there are some code breacher exclusive rooms with some pretty good loot worth opening. And if you're in a pinch and need to get into a locked room fast, you can use a code breacher to open whatever needs to be unlocked and get a move on without searching. Next, the black light. This is a usual flashlight except it has piss poor battery life and doesn't aggro Squiddles. This is really more of a slight quality of life, as lights aren't that necessary other than convenience. Lastly, the flash beacon. This item has 20 uses, and when you use it, it makes a massive bright flash like a camera. Useful for quickly illuminating stuff in front of you, and the best part is that it doesn't anger Squiddles for some reason. However, do be warned that this pisses basically everyone else off, including your teammates and Sebastian. And even though Sebastian isn't hostile, he's not gonna take that lightly. Now, with all these shiny new items, you're strong enough to take on the 3 main encounters of the game. The Searchlight encounter, the Ridge, and the finale. This is where the spoilers begin, by the way. Starting with the Searchlight, any door between 60 to 75 has a chance to have the PA system tell you that you need to go off the beaten path by a bit. Once you open the checkpoint, you'll have to fix some generators, and once you go down, you'll be met with... This is the first of the 3 major encounters in the game. You'll have to fix a certain amount of generators while avoiding the searchlights produced by this thing in the sky. Don't ask how it's flying, it only gets more confusing the more answers you get. If you get caught in the searchlights, you'll end up like that guy you just saw, so be careful. As you complete more and more generators, the searchlight will become faster and faster. They won't start going like super fast, but it's a notable speed boost from the beginning. This would be hell if it wasn't for the fact that this area is littered with things to hide under. You can use a locker if you're a fucking idiot.
That's not nice. Don't say that.
Shut up. Or you can hide under these boxes or forklifts. Even though the lights will clip through, you're entirely safe here. Keep in mind that the lights don't immediately kill you if you step in them. You have a bit of time to get under some sort of cover once they see you. You also will usually have a bit more time to repair the generator than you think, though it never hurts to just wait out the searchlight if you think it's a bit risky. It goes in a circle above the area, so you can just complete generators behind it. Pointing out which generators to go for based off of how much cover there is around it will increase your chances of survival, like, a lot. It's not like you need to fix every last one, just enough for them to allow you to exit through the door. Don't worry about leaving others behind, as they get teleported once the door closes. That's the only encounter I'd say is straight up easy, as it only gets tougher from there. As you continue through the rooms, you'll eventually make it to the ridge. You'll have to cross a bridge to get there where you'll collect the crystal, and once you collect the crystal, the game will begin throwing everything it's got at you. Everything will go dark, so make sure to go to the door with the green light. The rest of them are good people doors. This is the part where the game tests you the most, and also the part where players struggle the most. You have to go through 15 doors with constant node monster spawns, no flickering lights, and speakers that detonate your diving gear. My advice here is to take your time. Always make sure you have a locker to run to, and remember that other entities can spawn here, like wall dwellers and Eyefestation, though they're fairly uncommon. Whenever you open a door, there's usually always a node monster that spawns, so make sure to run to a hiding spot quickly. The only exception is if there's already a node monster spawned in. Move from locker to locker and always keep an ear out. This is where the flash beacon is most useful, as the ridge is quite dim, so you can use it to light up the area so you know which locker to run to next. Feel free to use up every last resource here, as the part after the ridge doesn't really require them at all. It'll be stressful and it may be tough, but once you see these doors, know that you're out of the ridge and can finally relax for a bit. That doesn't mean it's all over, however, as you still have the finale to go through. You'll have a small chance to loot for some extra assets or items, though lights aren't needed for this part. Make sure to heal up and stuff here, as you can't heal in water. That's right, the finale takes place entirely underwater. Once you go through this airlock, you'll see the big ass non-earth mover you swear illuminating the area and another searchlight. You have to fix a bunch of cables underwater while a searchlight flies overhead. Oh, did I say searchlight? Apologies. I meant 3. The more cables you repair, the more that spawn. There's still quite a lot of places to hide here. My advice for this section is to go for the ones on top and in the middle. And once again, take your time. Cables are a lot easier to repair than generators, so you're free to take more risks here. Also, don't hold out any lights as they slow down your swimming speed, and they're not really necessary. The searchlights also have set spawn points, one behind the skull and one in the distance nearby. I forgot. The cables also don't change the view of your screen like the generators, so you can set a spot where you can see most of the searchlights to know if you're safe. Remember to get the ones below last, by the way. I know you probably already forgot. Once you've repaired enough, not all, cables, you can go activate the external repellent cannon and head back through the cave you came from. There's one last searchlight encounter before you can get back in fully though, so be careful. You'll have to maneuver through the lights, or just hug the left wall. Just remember that you'll have to swim a tiny bit in the open to get to the safe part of the left wall. The searchlights may be on you here, but you're fine. Probably. After that, you're free to return inside, grab a few more assets, board the submarine, and escape. You're free. After all the hell you've endured, after the many times you died, the people you've lost, it's all behind you now. You don't ever have to return. If you're lame! The real fun of Pressure is hunting for all of the badges. Now that you've beat the game once, now do it with no lights, solo, or without taking damage, or lockerless. Do not do this when it's terrible! You can also do other challenges that aren't beating the game, like holding 3,000 data at one time or buying Sebastian's entire stock. These badges can be worn above you in the lobby and sit next to your name in chat. Most of them give a cool outfit, an item to buy in the dead drop shop, or, most importantly, bragging rights. If you really like flexing though, then I suggest you go for the holy trinity of pressure badges. This badge sucks, we didn't playtest to make sure this was possible, and Artifice. Not you, extra careful, you're too easy. To obtain these badges, you have to beat the game with 8 or more players without anyone dying for this badge sucks, beat the game without hiding in a locker for we didn't playtest to make sure this was possible, aka lockerless, and drink a party special for Artifice. I won't be going into any advice for how to get these, as this video is already long enough and that's not what this is about. But just know that TBS is the rarest, lockerless is the hardest, and Artifice, okay, I'm gonna admit, it just looks cool. And also it can only be obtained from like 2 sources. It's super rare, trust me bro. Speaking of rare, there's a ton of rare stuff to discover. What makes Pressure really special is all the rare and mysterious things you're able to find throughout your time playing. You'll usually find at least a few uncommon or rare things after some runs. This game prides itself on its variety. There's always something new you haven't seen yet. And the craziest part is, there's more planned. The dev team plans for there to be variations of the 3 grand encounters I just mentioned, having one near the beginning, in the middle, and for the end. They don't intend to add any new floors or any sort of second, like, world or something. They do intend on adding things like an endless mode, more monsters, and to expand on the lore, and much, much more. This game is out and released, but it's far from being done. Not in like the unfinished sort of way, but like, there's more. This video, however, nearly is done. It's now time for the part where I review the game, talk about what I like, dislike, etc., other, etc. This may come as a surprise, but I think this game is really good. It takes a foundation laid out by Doors and builds upon it with its own new ideas and mechanics. It clearly takes inspiration instead of just stealing the homework of the latest thing to get popular in hopes of leeching off its success. The game has a great atmosphere, it even has its own OST, which only barely falls short from the wouldn't listen to consistently tier to the good OST that fits the game well but I never listened to it outside of the game tier, which is actually a very high accomplishment. The badges, most of them, are fun to hunt for and the game has a good amount of replayability. Until you run out of the badges. Although Pressure is fun, its gameplay can become a bit monotonous, especially when you're not really working towards anything. It can start to feel a tiny bit like run and locker sim after a certain point. Turret rooms help spice up the gameplay when you're just wandering through the facility, but they're a little uncommon, only appearing a few times every like 30 rooms per run. Right now, the game has too much downtime with not a lot of uptime. The randomized grand encounters planned to come in the future seem like they'll help with variety, but those are only a certain portion of the game. It'd be cool if there were more small-scale dangerous encounters like the turret rooms. Maybe you enter a large room and have to find 3 keycards with some creature hunting you down, like a beefed-up Waldorf-esque thing you gotta look at, or that spider you can find in one of the uncommon, not rare rooms, or even some 173 type entity or node monster that patrols the room. Maybe some more puzzle rooms like the pipe puzzle that ruins the runs of Roblox players everywhere because they're all too stupid. Seriously, people are not very smart. Even if they're quite simple, it'd be a fun change of pace. I'd also like to see something like a hard mode because frankly, once you learn the game, it becomes really, really easy. And yes, I do mean a hard mode, not a self-imposed challenge like you die in the dark, extra careful, or lockerless. That's just getting fucked by RNG until you get lucky. These are just a few of my ideas as the idea giver though. That's all I really wanted to say about Pressure, though that's far from everything in the game. I haven't even brought up the alternate zones you can encounter, like the gardens, server rooms, and the trenches, or the lore. There's a lot of it, trust me. I may make more pressure videos if this does well and I come up with an idea for another video. Once again, if you enjoyed my who knows how long of schizophrenic ramblings, then check out the video in the top right for something similar. Now, it's finally time to cue the outro.